Hey family, it's Chef Rick, and welcome back to Flavor Lab Wednesday on Unseen Cuisine, Cooking Without Limits. Now, on Monday, we stood at the stove together and made risotto. We listened to the stock being absorbed, we stirred the rice, we followed the aroma, and we paid attention to the texture as it changed. Today, I want to talk to you about something that makes risotto different from every other rice dish. Why does risotto become creamy without adding cream? Why does arborio rice behave differently than any other long grain rice? Why do we add stock a little at a time instead of all of it at once? And how can your senses tell exactly what's happening in the pan? So, let's get into it. Part 1. This rice was built for risotto. Let's start with the rice itself. Before you even turn on the stove, arborio rice is already different. Tactile cue. Take a few grains and roll them in between your fingers. Notice how they feel? Shorter, rounder, and a little plumper than traditional long grain rice. Almost heavier, more substantial. Sensory reminder. That's one reason arborio rice works so well. It contains a lot of starch, and that starch is what helps create that famous creamy texture. Not cream, starch, and that's a big difference. Part 2, why stirring matters. Now think back to Monday. Remember all the stirring? There was a reason for it. Tactile cue. As the spoon moves through the rice, the grains gently rub against each other, little by little, minute by minute. Texture cue. As they rub together, starch begins leaving the surface of the rice and moving into the liquid. That's why risotto slowly starts feeling thicker, creamier, more connected. The spoon starts gliding through a completely different texture than it did at the beginning. That's one of the clues we're looking for. Part 3, listen to the absorption process. Now let's talk about that sound, because risotto has its own rhythm. Audio cue. As you add stock, the pan becomes alive, bubbling, movement, energy. Then a few minutes later, the sound changes. The bubbling softens. The pan becomes quieter. What you're hearing is that the rice is absorbing the liquid. The stock is disappearing into the grain. Then you add another ladle. That sound comes back. Then it softens again. That's the rhythm of risotto. Listen, add stock, listen again. It's almost like rice is asking for the next ladle. Part 4, your nose can follow the journey. Now let's bring our nose into the conversation. Aroma cue. At the beginning, you're smelling onions and toasted rice. Simple, clean, comforting. As the stock is added, the aroma grows. Maybe you're picking up herbs, maybe vegetables, maybe saffron, maybe mushrooms. Whatever ingredients you're using, the smell becomes deeper with every addition. Sensory reminder. Take a breath every few minutes. Notice what's changing? Your nose is tracking the journey right alongside of you. Part 5, the difference between creamy and mushy. Now, here's something important. Creamy and mushy are not the same. Texture cues. A properly cooked risotto feels creamy around the rice, but the rice itself still exists. You can feel the grains. You can still identify their shape. Tactile cue. When you move the spoon through the finished risotto, it should flow gently, not stand stiff, not run like soup, not sit like glue. Some chefs call it the wave. The risotto should slowly spread and settle when moved. That's one of the signs that you're in a sweet spot. Part 6, why finishing matters. Now let's talk about those final ingredients. The cheese, the butter, the herbs. Aroma cue. Take one last breath before serving. Notice how everything feels complete now? The aromas aren't competing anymore. They're working together. Tactile cue. The final addition of the cheese and butter brings everything together. The risotto feels richer, smoother, more luxurious, not because it suddenly became fancy, because every layer of flavor has finally come together. Now, just think about what you just experienced. You use touch to understand the rice, sound to follow the liquid absorption, aroma to track for development, flavor to recognize the perfect consistency. That is the unseen cuisine method. You're not watching risotto cook, you're experiencing every stage through your senses. Here's what I want you to remember. Risotto isn't difficult. It's simply asking for your attention. The rice tells you when it needs more liquid. The aroma tells you when the flavor is developing. The spoon tells you when texture is changing. The question is, are you listening? Because once you learn to trust those cues, risotto stops being intimidating and starts becoming more enjoyable. Now, before we wrap up, here's your challenge. The next time you make risotto, don't focus on the clock. Focus on the conversation. Listen to the bubbling. Notice when the pan gets quieter. Take a breath every few minutes and pay attention to how the aroma changes. Feel how the spoon moves through the rice from beginning of the cooking all the way to the end of cooking. And most importantly, notice how confidence grows each time you practice, because confidence isn't built from memorizing recipes. It's built from understanding what your food is telling you. And if you're enjoying this journey through sensory cooking, make sure you're following Unseen Cuisine and sharing these episodes with someone who's ready to build more confidence in the kitchen. Because here, we're proving every day that great cooking isn't about what you see, it's about what you can sense. This is Chef Rick, cooking for every sense, confidence for every cook, and I'll see you next Recipe Friday.